And I didn't even realize it until after. But in doing this, it was pretty much him sending me a reminder of who we are, according to his word, because I feel like we've forgotten, or we've gotten lazy, or we've gotten accustomed to doing things a certain way because we've just been used to doing things a certain way. And um, he sent me to John 15 as a reminder of who we are and whose we are, because it brought me to Bible study when we were initially doing this thing together. And for some reason, we've kind of drifted off. And we went from doing this thing together to kind of trying to do things on our own. And again, God sent me a reminder that this is where we come from, and this is who we are. So I'm going to read it from the New American Standard Version. John 15 says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it so that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, he bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up, and they gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. Just as the Father had loved me, I also loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be made full. This is my commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that one may lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends, if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you slaves, for the slave does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you would go and bear fruit, and that your fruit would remain, so that whatever you ask in the Father in my name he may give you. This I command you, that you love one another. If the world hates you, you know that it has hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, because of this the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a slave is not greater than his master. If they persecute me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will also keep yours. But all these things they will do to you in my name's sake, because they do not know the one who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sinned. But now they have no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father also. If I had not done among them the works which no one else did, they would not have sinned. But now they have both seen and hated me and my Father as well. But they have done this to fulfill the word that is written in the law. They hated me without a cause. When the Helper comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, that is the Spirit of truth, who proceeds from the Father, he will testify about me. And you will testify also, because you have been with me from the beginning. Amen.
Amen.
So, in kind of researching this, I found that John really didn't have a clear-cut author. That it was kind of a mixture of, I guess, witness to the work that Jesus did. And in chapter 15, it was post-crucifixion and pre-ascension when Jesus came to pretty much set the order or the tone for the disciples and challenge them to love and to carry on his legacy before he goes. In this chapter, Jesus is showing and reassuring us of the direct connection or lineage between us and God the Father. In verses 1 through 17, it talks about how Jesus is the true vine and we are the branches. And so in this, I looked up the word vine and the word branches. And the word vine comes from a Greek word, if I mispronounce them, I'm sorry. Comes from a Greek word, empelos, which means from the base, coil about, or a support. And the word branch comes from a Greek word, klema, which means from, as if broken off. And when I heard this, it kind of brought to mind the scripture in 1 Corinthians 11 and 24 that says, when it talks about communion, and he says, take and eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. So it kind of shows you the direct connection. If we're broken of the vine, and he came to fulfill the law, if he came to fulfill or to justify us, we were broken of him. So again, it talks about Jesus as the true vine, and that we are the branches, and that the indication of his legacy is love, or the fruit that we bear. He says that we are to remain in his love and keep his commandments just as he kept his Father's commandments. And the proof that God the Father loved us first is in verse 2. Verse 2 in the Amplified Version says, every branch that is in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. Every branch that continues to bear fruit, he repeatedly prunes, so that we will bear more fruit, even richer, finer fruit. And the word prune comes from a Greek word. I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong. I think it's kathatero, which means to cleanse or to purge. So God the Father has already made us clean. Jesus just came to fulfill that he set in place. And throughout this, there's a couple of definitions of the word legacy that I'm going to share. And one of the definitions of legacy is an applicant to a particular institution who's regarded preferably because of a parent or relative who attended the same institution. So this brought to mind, because you went to a black college, this brought to mind, fraternities and sororities, and how if, your grandmother's mother's mother was a part of a certain sorority, if you went to that particular college, you were expected to because of the legacy that followed, or the legacy that came before you. And so in this instance here, our institution is the kingdom of heaven, because God, who came before us, is our legacy.
Amen.
So in verse 18 through 25, Jesus is explaining how the legacy comes with responsibilities. Although we've been instructed to love as he did, the world is designed to hate us at the same time. In verse 18 in the Amplified, it says, and if the world hates you, and it does, know that it has hated me before it's hated you. So the same way that we have a legacy, the world has a legacy also. So if we're, because of our legacy, instructed to love, the world, because of its legacy, is instructed to hate. And if you expect anything different, ask yourself why. So the same tribulation and persecution that Jesus endured in the name of the one who sent him, God the Father, is to be expected, because now we've been sent into the world. And the clear indication is that we were sent into the world, because you can't be sent into something that you're already in.
Gotcha.
That's word.
Gotcha.
So when you try to become accustomed to the world, remember that you were sent into the world. That's like going to a foreign country. It's by nature that you're not to speak the same language, because that's not where you're from. It's by nature that you have to kind of learn the customs of that world, because you're not of that world. Same thing here. It's not that you're going to lose yourself, because you still hold on to who you are, but you were sent into the world, not of the world. Another definition of legacy is a thing handed down by a predecessor. Footprint, byproduct, outcome, residue, or spinoff. In this case, the thing that was handed down was the responsibility of love. Love isn't a choice, it's a directive. Now, in kind of looking at what that definition meant, I looked up the word responsibility, and the word responsibility is a noun. It's a thing. It's the state or fact of being accountable or to blame for something. So if God is love, and if we've been sent to love, then we're responsible for God in the world that we were sent into.
Amen.
Some other synonyms of the word responsibility are authority, control, power, leadership, management, influence, and duty. In verse 21, in the Amplified, it says, they will do things